Are you wondering how to break the stigma around mental health issues and the impact that it's having on our African American and other disenfranchised communities? If you are, join us, your hosts, MERENCIA HENSON, CRESHEIA Lee, and WALANDA Johnson on our Mindful Moments mental health radio show every second and fourth Thursday of every month at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, as we dive into a mindful dialogue to empower, inform, and bring awareness to the positive impact of mental health wellness. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our show, Mindful Moments Mental Health Radio Show. We are so excited for this episode. We thank you once again for joining us. My name is MERENCIA HENSON. I am one of your co-hosts. I am an associate clinical social worker here in San Diego. I work with adolescents and adults that have pervasive and severe mental health disorders, as well as intellectual disabilities. Again, I'm so excited for this show. Of course, had to rep HU. You know. You know, I had to do it.
Awesome.
But yes.
It's going to be her for the rest of the year. We just, at least for the next 6 months.
Yes, that's where I got everything that I needed to know and more and beyond. And of course, our intelligent vice president went there. So you know how it is, ladies. I had to represent during our show. But we also have Miss Lucretia Lee.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lucretia Lee. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in San Diego. I work at one of the detention facilities where I assess inmates for suicide ideation. So basically making sure that they're not going to be housed somewhere where they can kill or harm themselves or kill or harm anyone else. Glad to be here.
Hello, my name is WALANDA Johnson. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I work in private practice. And I help people with a number of issues, whether it's anxiety, depression, trauma, relationship issues, couples therapy, or just regular everyday stressors. So, hi.
All right. So it's been an exciting couple of weeks.
Yes, it has, right?
So many relaxing
ups and downs and
way more relaxing than 4 years ago.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like we can finally breathe, right, ladies? Like I know when even just like in the beginning of watching the inauguration, it was just like, you know what I mean? Like, of course, we have a lot that we need to continue to do, but just a fresher breath air, you know?
Yeah. Definitely lighter, but at the same time, I'm just like you said, MERENCIA, now it's time to take care of business because all those people who work behind scenes to get 45 in office, they're not all gone. They're still there. The same view, and things like that. So it's like, we know you're there more than ever. So yeah, it's time to do the real work.
Right.
But what about our VP ladies?
Ooh.
Who run the world?
Girl, hey. Look, first it was President Obama, beautiful First Lady Michelle. Now we got, yes, it's good. It's good. And on so many levels, just representation.
Exactly. Talking about representation and, her, Kamala Harris being our VP. I mean, she's had several firsts in her repertoire. You know what I mean? So she's doing things well before, I think most of us, at least before I knew who she was.
Right.
Yeah. Just a couple of things I pulled up.
Beautiful.
The first Black woman to be elected district attorney in California history. First woman to be California's attorney general.
Wow.
First Indian American senator. And now she's representing as our VP.
She's so powerful. That's the thing. She is a strong, fierce, powerful, intelligent woman. And the great thing that I really enjoy just listening to her is just her poise. It's like that confidence. Like, so many times, when we, or at least I know us ladies, when we see her in Congress, she challenged the Republicans. She challenges those white men. Like, okay, bring it. You know what I mean? Like, I know my stuff. I know what I need to do. And I'm not afraid of you. You know what I mean? She's like, okay. And she just, she's like a firecracker. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. You know what? I think that, Chucks and pearls says it all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that is all encompassing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
I'm a lady, but I will get in these streets
hello.
and
With
ball
the
with
chucks,
y'all.
honey.
Yeah.
With the chucks on, straight from Cali.
Yes,
Bring it.
yes,
I'm here.
yes.
I'm solid.
Right.
I got this. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. Let's bring it.
Man, that was just so awesome.
Love it.
And I know a lot of people have been talking about it, so I think we need to mention it. Just the attire that not only, you know, Kamala Harris had, but, you know, Michelle and everything. I mean, just the attire was just everything.
Retirement from presidency looks good on Michelle.
And for me, right? And for me, all the different images and stuff we seen, what forever stays in my mind is when Michelle was looking at her and she pointed at her. I was like, right? Like, what? Like,
I see you. I see you.
Behind that. You know what I mean? Like, I told you, we here, you know? It was
we here, we in this.
Yeah. Right. Let's do this. Let's absolutely do this. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Would we all like to have a Michelle Obama pointing at us saying, got you, we talked about this, you here, let's do this.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
representation, right? And reaching back.
And see, and that's the key thing. I'm not sure why it's blurry, but you know, and that's one thing that we just really love within ourselves and just the sisterhood that we have. It's like, it's about empowering each other. You know, it's about encouraging each other, not only as a woman, but as a Black woman, as a leader, you know, within our own rights in our field, as mothers, as just all the roles that we play. And it's all about encouraging and being there for one another. And you literally, like you said, LaQuisha, you saw that when those two beautiful ladies looked at each other like, I got you. And you already know they're going to have so many conversations, right? Like, honey, let me tell you what you need to know. Like, I'm going to give you the scoop in everything.
Right?
Yeah. Because quiet is kept, you know, 4 years. I mean, she might just move into presidency. I don't know.
Hey, why was I already thinking that though? Right?
I don't know, but I'm just saying.
Right.
We all know how old Biden is. And tomorrow is not promised.
Right. To none of us, right?
Yeah. But look, it's so true though, because even Biden.
She's in position, man.
Right there. Right there.
So
And that's the thing. I remember when, you know, when former President Obama and Biden got out the White House, they kept pressuring Biden, like, are you sure? And he's like, nah, I'm good. Like, well, sure, he didn't say it like that, but, you know, like, nah.
He might have.
Right. You know, his best friend is, you know, President Obama, so you never know. But, you know, and then gradually he was like, you know what, I'm thinking about it. I'm not going to say nothing. And then bam, you know, here we are today. So you never know what's in the cards.
Right? Never know. Right. You never know.
All I know is Howard's in the building. Howard's in the White House. Look, when I come back to DC in October for homecoming, you already know it's about to be bananas.
Yeah, y'all gonna be acting a fool.
Right, already.
Awesome.
Yeah, so beautiful to see.
So we do.
I mean, look, she. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing.
No, go ahead.
You know, the mayor of DC already changed the White House street name, right?
Already?
Really?
Well, you know, the Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was already it was already in the making.
Like again, I was like, oh, okay.
No. Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say that which is what we're talking about, you know, tonight. You know, representation and reaching back, and so we know that representation is so important. I mean, we cannot emphasize how important it is. I mean, it's like, you know, our culture is a visual culture, you know.
Yes.
And we've always used images to talk about our lives, experiences, and understand the world. And I mean, think about it, it goes back to the cave days. Cavemen and women were drawn with the spear. I mean, it goes back to then to like now we have, you know, selfies that are taken on a daily basis and stuff. So, you know, the images help to depict, you know, instruct us about our culture and norms. And so when a people are misrepresented, are not represented at all, I mean, just the effects of that can be dire.
Yeah.
You know, and so when we have someone like Kamala Harris and she's from Oakland, right?
Yes.
Oh, come on. You know, it's like,
and you know, Northern Cali is different than Southern Cali. It's like
right.
two separate states in one, you
And
know?
And Oakland is different.
Oakland.
Right. You know, when people think,
Oakland.
I mean, we of course think Raiders and stuff like that, but it's like we have, you know, greatness everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, we have, you know, the director of Black Panther. I mean, it's a changing the paradigm.
100%.
You know, it is what it is. So, you know, they're representing hard.
Mm-hmm.
So we gotta, you know, we really have to be cognizant of the images that we portray. And make sure people
and what you said is so true, because you know, like you just shared just an example of Black Panther, right? Like, it's not just a superhero cartoon for young Black and brown boys, but like, look,
it was a movement.
Seriously, it's like you could be a superhero in your own way in your real life. You can be a Black actor. You can do, you know, empowering things in the world to save your community or to save your society. So even as a whole, and then when you make it smaller, how much, you know, a Black or brown boy can look up to a superhero fondly, you know what I mean? And digest that with the parent. And then the same thing with, you know, our young Black girls. Yeah. And that's why, like, you know, we've talked about this before, but it's so important that we educate our own. We, especially as parents, as, you know, an aunt, Walanda, you know, for your nieces and nephews to buy those Black and brown educated books for our little kids, you know, because we can't just rely, you know, their education on their teachers, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. On the miseducation in America, the miseducation that happens in America before Lauryn Hill's miseducation. It was the school system in America. But something that I thought about, Lucretia, as you were talking, was how important representation is to mental health. Like, because without that, you can feel so alone, right? And so, and that can make you feel depressed and make you feel like, you know, you're just out there by yourself, or it can make you feel anxious, because then, you know, as we talked about offline, like you feel like you have to represent for all whoever you represent. You know what I mean? Whatever culture you represent, like you're like the spokesperson.
Yeah.
So you want to be or not.
Right, whether you want to be or not. And that's so important. Like, it's not just representation so I can feel empowered. It's representation so my mental health can be healthier, you know, because feeling alone and all of that stuff, I mean, we all know how that feels, but yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like what you're saying, Walanda, like mental imagery plays a core role in mental health.
Yeah.
As well as the treatment of mental health. You know, when people come in, it's like they feel a certain way and they don't know how to maneuver socially and what have you. And so much of the work that's done in therapy is around mental imagery. You know, it just is, you know, whether it's skewed or, you know, magnified or what have you.
Yeah. So.
And that's why I don't know about you ladies, but I know that Taraji P. Henson has her own Facebook TV show where she really just dives in, and she's very transparent about, you know, various different types of mental health trauma and issues and concerns in the Black community. And she has, you know, actors and actresses and, you know, just other, you know, I guess like leaders, which is anyways, like a variety of different guests on her show. And once again, like, I just love who she is in the sense of like, look, you know, my dad had PTSD, you know, because he went to war. Now let me get educated, right? And let me again get back into the community, bring somebody with me. Now she has the foundation, now she has the show, and she does such great work in LA and just throughout the country, where, and I think we shared this before, you know, she has like a whole resource page where if you're in New York, California, wherever, and you're looking for, you know, a psychologist, a therapist, you know, all those resources are out there. And then she also has like discounts or free therapy sessions for adolescent kids. I mean, she's doing such great work. And again, it's representation, you know, of who we need in this field.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so important for our little people and for us too. I mean, not just, you know, for young people, but for us too. I mean, we all talked about our own experiences of being the only, I say chocolate chip, in the room. It's especially in San Diego. I can't tell you how many trainings I went to, and the very good trainings, like about trauma and veteran and brain, what is that called? TBI, like all kinds of things. And it's just like, okay.
You look around the room like,
where are we?
Once again.
Where are we? And even on directories, like you were telling me, Merencia, when you looked on the directory for psychology today, like,
honey, I saw you, Walanda.
Where are we?
I saw 2 other African Americans, and that was it. So that's why I was like, yeah, let me jump on it and get on psychology today, because it's needed. And again, I know Lucretia, she's going to share momentarily about her experience, in college and just like us, but it's how we relate to our clients, right? Just having that empathy, which is different than sympathy, right? And to just to have that brown face in their room, whether it's as a social worker going into an IEP room with a parent and a child, and with teachers, it's like, no, like, I'm here to advocate for this family. Like, I'm here to let you guys know that we work as a community to get things done. We all know through experience in our fields how, if we don't have representation in that room for our clients, how their demeanor is different, their outcome is different, their goals for the kid is different. Like, no, that's not what's going on. Like, this is what's going on, and this is what we're going to request. And of course, we stay professional, but it's just crazy how just our representation in the room can really change the dynamics when it comes to advocacy for our youth, for an example.
Yeah, you were mentioning, Merencia, and also Walanda, about being the only chocolate chip or one of the chocolate chips. I like how you put that. I think most people of color can relate to what we're saying. If you are a native of California or spent a significant amount of time here, you really can't relate to it. That's just what it is. Even though we might be accustomed to it, it doesn't mean that it's not difficult. It comes with its challenges. And I think the need for a balance is actually kind of helped shape my degrees. And so I always knew when I started college that I wanted to be a counselor or psychologist or something like that. And so because my formative years, I didn't have any African-American studies courses, I told myself that every semester I would take one African-American studies course, not only to learn about myself and my history and things like that, but because I enjoyed it so much, it was just like, I'm the only one in all these other classes, regardless of what it is. But then when I took an African-American studies course, not only did the person teaching the course look like me, but many, if not all, of the students looked like me. And it was just a different vibe. And so I loved it so much. So I did it every single semester. So fast forward, I transferred to San Diego State. And African Americans on the campus, it's probably still about the same percentage, but it was about 2%.
Wow.
Wow.
Very, very, very few. And so some of the larger classes can be like 200-300 people, and you might see another African American. You might not. And so, like, again, I was very consistent to taking that one African American studies course. And so some of the challenges I have in the psych department in San Diego State, I didn't know that it came with this long history. I mean, I think it's been in the paper and there's been suits over the years, but basically that they were African-American psychologists who, for whatever reason, were not being hired to work in the psychology.
Oh, wow.
So they were on campus. There were several of them, even the African-American Studies department. And so I had some experiences that were so challenging, even to the point where a professor in the psych department asked me, have I ever considered changing my major? I don't even know where that came from. My grades were excellent and what have you. And I'm just like, I wasn't even there to talk about grades. I was talk about something else. But anyway, and so in terms of needing that, so I would share my experiences with folks in African American Studies department and was getting support and mentorship from the African American professors there. And then me and a couple other people said, we know we're not the only Black students of color who are experiencing this, who are psych majors. And so we were encouraged to start an organization, in which we did, which it was really, you know, it was good for so many of us. And so we're, you know, it
support
pushed
system.
me. Yeah, it pushed me to look for and create. And then I ended up double majoring in African American studies and psychology. But like, again, it came for like, it was a need, you know what I mean? So if you don't have the representation, if it's not readily available, you got to look for it.
Wow, that's
you
good.
got to look
or
for
create it
and create it, and then you have to be that representation, you know, for others and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I was thinking about when you were saying the population of African Americans at state. I went to USD, and I think at the time the percentage was maybe 11.
Oh wow!
And I mean, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Gompers before it's Gompers now, but that's where I went to high school.
Right.
Completely different than how it is now, but that was like, so I've always gone to multicultural schools. So not just a Black school, but like you have like Mexican, you have Samoan, you have Laotian, you have Filipino, you have white, you have Black, like, and so that's what I was so used to. And so when I stepped on campus at USD, I was like, the anxiety was so
wow, I bet.
real. It was so high because I was like, even if I would have saw more Latinos or more Asians, I think I would have felt comfortable. But it was very slight. And I had never experienced that before in my life. I had no idea how to handle it.
Wow.
You know, as a college student, as a young person, I'm just like, this doesn't feel right. You know, so it's so important. I ended up I was like, I can't stay here because I just couldn't. My anxiety was so high. I hated going to class. I hated walking on campus because I was like, I didn't feel safe. And not saying that I felt like I was going to get attacked, but just I didn't feel like I was seen. I didn't feel
supportive.
I didn't feel like my voice mattered. I didn't feel like I was welcomed. You know, I didn't feel like I was welcomed. I think that's what it was the most. Like, I'm just here as, you know, whoever, and it's whatever, you know? So,
it's hard. And I'm so glad that, you know, we have this platform just to be vulnerable and to talk about it, because like you said, Lucretia, you know, there's many more, you know, that's experienced this. And again, it just goes back to the importance of, you know, us reaching back, you know, going to, you know, even going back to, you know, middle schools out here, you know, and high schools and, you know, allowing them to see like, hey, you know, what is your dreams? What are your aspirations? You know, we're social workers, we're therapists, you know, share our ideas and experiences just to, you know, help someone else. And with my experiences, you know, I come from Black family, Mexican family, right? Both very successful, very educated. And, you know, the rule was after high school, you go straight to college, you know? And so I went to Cal State San Marcos, and literally, ladies, the same with you. I think our percentage was 1.8 African-American. And then after that was Hispanic, but the same, like, well, one for us, our classes were like less than 50 people. And that was like one good thing that I thought, you know, I would enjoy Cal State San Marcos. But again, the only Black person in the class, you know what I mean? And, you know, and because I first started out in psychology and then I changed my major to sociology, but, you know, the teachers were all white, you know, again, me and maybe one other African-American or mixed, you know, student. And I felt uncomfortable, as well as, like I said, Lucretia, like they would ask me questions to represent everybody. And, you know, when you get older and you really look at it, it's like, you know, what was being taught. And thank God I came from, you know, both sides of a family that, you know, educated us and brought us up the way that we did. But, you know, again, it was through the white woman's lens of society, of human behavior, through their ideology of what needs to change. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like that's your experience, that's your life. But it's so important to have diversity in professors, diversity in, you know, your syllabus of what you're going to be teaching, because not everybody has the same, not everybody has the same experiences of how to be a psychologist or how to be a sociologist, how to be a mental health therapist through only one lens. So yeah, you know, very similar experiences like you ladies. And then on top of that, after I graduated from there, started working in my field right away. Once again, being from San Diego, right? The only behavioral specialist, the only ABA therapist in the room, and everybody else is white women. And again, I just felt uncomfortable. I didn't really feel supportive of my supervisors. And that's really what pushed me, ladies, to go to Howard University. You know what I mean? Like, okay, outside of my family, outside of my close niche of family, like I want to be around like-minded professionals that look like me. And it's just, it was literally a night and day educational experience going to Howard Universities, having professors that look like me, have the same like, or very similar ideologies of how to change and to do better within our community and society. And, you know, I'll be transparent, like I'm dyslexic. So I've struggled in school, right? And by just my change of environment and having students and professors that look like me, I would have never thought I would have graduated Howard University with my master's degree with a 3.78 GPA. You know what I mean? But again, just by like the whole experience different, how that changes your education. And that's why like I really want to get back into bringing somebody with me, you know, sharing my experience, especially in San Diego, because it really makes a difference of who you are as a woman or as a Black man in this field, and honestly in any field, right?
And how you develop. Yeah,
exactly.
Sure.
And how you mature.
For sure.
That is one thing that in the back of my mind that I'll sort of regret that I haven't, you know, experienced historical Black college or university. You know what I mean? You know, when I was, you know, starting school, I knew they existed, you know, probably a couple of names, but that's all I knew. You know what I mean? So I learned more and more as I was already within my educational career. You know? And that's just the way it is. I mean, but who knows, you know, but as of this point, I haven't had that experience. And just thinking about that, it makes me think about, if we had any of you who've had psychology courses, it's in particular the experimental ones, you know, towards the latter part where you need to do research projects.
Yeah, I remember those.
So as you ladies are saying how you didn't feel supported and you felt uncomfortable, for me, I just felt like every time I went to class, I was ready to fight.
I felt that.
So I felt like that. I deserved to be there. You're not running me away, and I'm going to be heard. And so it was literally a fight. So what happened is that, you know, you have to break up in groups and decide on what research projects you're going to do.
Oh, I'm excited to hear this. And let's hear it, Lucretia.
You know, Angela Davis here. She was like, look.
No, it was one of those things where it was like, I literally had said to the people in class, I am open to doing any particular research project. I can find some interest in it. But what must be incorporated is the study of Blacks.
Yes.
And Hispanics. We need some diversity. And people didn't want me in the group because I was like, look, it has to, I don't care if we're studying people who eat pickles. I don't care what we're studying. We need to have some Black people eating the pickle.
Yeah.
So we can see if, you know, it's important.
I'm visualizing this.
And so basically the conversation, people kept saying to me, why is it a Black thing to you? I said, no, it's not a Black thing, it's a human thing. And if you're interested in the study of psychology, you're interested in the study of human beings.
Yeah.
And why would you be so
not just white human beings?
Only want to study white human beings. And that doesn't make any sense to me. So I ended up, you know, saying to the professor, you know, can I do my own project? And he was like, you cannot, because the gravity of the project is too huge. One person can't do it. I said, well, I can't find a fit. He says, you need to make it fit, basically. And so I had to join a group. And so I decided to look at it a little differently. So instead of me coming in saying, well, we have to have, you know, our study pool, some have to be Black, I wanted to make sure that I was in front of the project and not behind the project. Because everybody in the research project is not necessarily interacting with, you know, the people who are part of the project. And so I'm like, well, if we're doing, we have a classroom full of people, and if they're doing surveys and we're passing out the surveys, I need to be one of the people passing out the surveys.
Smart.
I wasn't saying that's good. But I'm a Black woman. every day, every night. So if I'm interacting with them, one of the variables is an African-American woman who passed out some of these surveys.
I love that. And then at the same time, you know that it's getting done. No one's like, oh yeah, I passed it out to them.
It was getting done, but we literally in our research project had to write African-American female around the age of so and so passed out so many surveys too, compared to a Caucasian male.
Gotcha.
So I made it happen anyway. And so I just tried to find ways to work around it, but there were some challenges.
Absolutely. Because the reality is, and I mean, we're acknowledging this more, there are different Americas.
Right.
And so, you know, it's not just one. I mean, I know we like to say it's a melting pot, it's amalgamation.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah.
Did you say that we had a question, Walanda?
Yeah, we do. Sorry.
No, you're good.
So, sorry, my glass. I need to work my glasses. Rizzer Stokes asked, I don't know if they want me to say your name. My bad. Okay. My bad if you didn't want me to say your name, Auntie. My bad. What are some things we can do to pull Black women along in private industry?
That's a good one. Oh wait, and I do want to make a shout out to my Aunt Sylvia. She is amazing at what she does. She lives in Northern California. She works for IBM, and she's always worked with having more Black and brown girls in the STEM programs, and
really come through
within like the technology and engineering. So just shout out to my auntie, because she's doing the same thing, bringing them with her.
Well, maybe she need to tell us the answer to this question.
Type it in the comments. Well, I just recently started following this young woman. She is a Black psychologist. She goes by Dr. T. And starting next week, actually, I'm going to be starting it's called Dope Therapist Academy. Okay. And it's about how to start your own private practice, which I've been praying on and been brainstorming on. So I'm super excited about that. But I bring that up to say, with my aunt's question, I think when you have those type of communities and you search for it, that's when you can really pull more African-American sisters and family members and cousins with you, because when you know better, you do better, right? And sometimes it's not going to just fall in your lap. So I researched it. You know, I'm joining her. She's an African-American therapist, and she, will teach you the ins and outs from the financial aspect, how to get your clients, how to bill, and everything. So again, kind of how I'm trying to answer it is, you know, when you know something, you're researching things. Like I told LaCretia, I told Walanda about it. You know, I told my other sisters about it that's in this field. And it's just all about not keeping the education, not keeping the resources to yourself, but to enlighten others. Hey, girl, if this is what you want to do too, here's the information. So for my answer, it's to educate, enlighten, and just share your information to everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
LaCretia, go.
I agree with you, Merencia. And I think the whole thing is that don't keep the information to yourself. You know, I know everybody is trying to, feed themselves and grow, but I think there's enough out here for all of us.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you guys know, in terms of our degrees, our programs and stuff, they don't have business courses built into
it. And that's what Dr. TK said. She's like,
it's not part of it. And
not at all.
Even though
and sometimes they discourage it.
Because a lot of people, a lot of clinicians, not all, but many of them, if you ask them, ideally, what would you be doing after graduate school? And they most would say, have my own practice, or at least partly want to have their own practice. Yeah. So there's nothing built into the curriculum of how you would even go by doing that.
And that's literally what Dr. TK said. She was like, ladies or gentlemen, you're going to be learning about things that we were never taught in graduate school. And nothing against it, but it's all, especially for social workers, what do you want to do? Macro and the micro levels, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, what you said is absolutely correct.
And then as a marriage and family therapist,
okay,
it's clinical. It's clinical. How do you treat the client? Not how do you apply for a business license? And there's so many boxes to check. There's so many boxes.
So many.
After you become licensed, I mean, that's a whole different ball game. But then once you become licensed, there's so many boxes to check. Yeah. Expenses are tied to those boxes, as well as potential lawsuits.
Wow.
And so you got not knowing and fear of, making a mistake and being sued, and all that is absolutely real.
That's so true.
So, yeah.
I think my contribution to the question, I knew the principal at one of those inner city schools, and I can't remember the name of the school, so I hope she's not listening. But being able to speak at career days, like I feel like to be intentional and be proactive, get in touch with the schools that are in your neighborhood. Ask them, like, I mean, now COVID, I mean, it makes it a little bit, a lot more challenging, but some of them still do, like, come in and talk about what you do, share with them what you do. They had, and this school was an inner city school, and they had, unfortunately, they had lower test scores and things like that. But one of the things she was doing was like, I want to bring in people of color. And we all of us were people of color. There were doctors, there were lawyers, there were judges, there were therapists, there were all these professionals, and they talked to these second, fourth, fifth, sixth graders and said, hey, like, this is what I do. And they asked us questions about what we do and how much money, they want to know how much money you can make. And being able to share that even at that age, because, I remember being really, really young, like wanting to, like maybe second or third grade, wanting to be a teacher. And I would take home worksheets that the teacher didn't use during the semester and pass them out to my little teddy bears. You know what I mean? Nobody talked to me about being a teacher. Like nobody told me what that encompassed. But at that age, my mind is already thinking about what I want to be in the future. So it's never too early to foster those things as far as elementary school goes.
I agree.
I know, I love that. And I'm glad that you shared that, Walanda, because like you said, you at a young age wanted to be a teacher. And if you really think about it, you are teaching, right? Like you're teaching your clients how to have a healthier life, like mentally and emotionally. And I remember in kindergarten, my mom was like, you always said you want to be a baby doctor. And even though I'm not a doctor,
I want to be doing that too.
Oh, see? Yeah. And like, what am I doing now? Like I'm helping parents teach their kids. You know what I mean? Or
you doctor in their minds.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's so true though. You're gonna say something, Lucretia?
No, I like what you guys are saying. Like, I think part of what you guys are saying, like you when you were young, you had a particular image, and maybe as you got older, things kind of, and that's okay as well. I think that's
how you grow.
That's part of the conversation to have with young people, because Londa and I have the same degree, but we're doing something totally different. Totally different. Our paths have been totally different. I will be, starting practice this year. But the point I'm making is that there's so many different things we can do. You know what I mean? And that really needs to be part of the conversation as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the key thing too that the three of us know already is the mindset, right? So if you have children in different urban neighborhoods where their dreams are getting slashed down, right? Like, you can't do this. Where are you going to get the money? Or, we can't get out. That's a mindset. So now this little second grader that wanted to be a teacher, if they are having those negative thoughts, lowering their self-esteem, lowering their lack of confidence, then it just diminishes their dream. You know what I mean? And of course, it's not every family member, right? Or I'm sorry, not every child in urban neighborhoods, but we're just talking about the ones where, their mindset can either make or break them, honestly.
Absolutely.
To their dreams.
Absolutely. And I wonder, how many young Black girls now are like, even the poem that Sister Amanda when she's, I can't, and I don't,
Let me see if I can bring
my
it up.
disrespect, but when she said about, I dreamed of being president and now I'm speaking in front of one, I was like, and I wasn't, and when she said that, I didn't think of Biden. I'm just going to say, I was like, yes, you're speaking in front of President Harris. That's what that's where my mind went. But
right.
how many more little girls in general, whatever culture you're from, but also, you know, young girls of color who are like, wow, I can get there.
Wow.
Right.
I pulled up her quote, one of her, a quote that they stated on CNN. Oh, I'm sorry, it was ABC News. She said, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. There's always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. And again, it goes back to your mindset. You know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Exposure. And when I think about, you know, the young lady that did the poetry and just different things like that, I think about different positions I've had over the years, and a couple in particular, but one, I worked in a position where I was, it was a pregnancy prevention program, but we couldn't talk about pregnancy prevention through the school district. We couldn't even talk about that. So, you know, but we need to figure out a way to get young people to want to be a part of this program, their parents to sign on to it. And so I learned very early on is that exposure is the key. And so I started putting together things like, well, many of them were native San Diegan. Many hadn't gone to the beach. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Those so real.
Torrey Pines, you know, hiking at Torrey Pines. And so
in their backyard.
Yeah. I mean, but you know, and so so my thing was expose young people to things, let them know that it's accessible, obtainable. And
that part.
Dream outside of their block or whatever little, you know, small, you know, environment. And so we did a lot of you know, trips to San Diego State, took them to African American Studies courses, you know, took them on campus when I knew that the Greeks were going to be stepping.
There you go, right?
Hey, that's what somebody did for me.
Let's be real.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
This too could be you.
Yeah. And then they would see people that maybe they're on their high school campus the previous year or 2 years, like, I remember that guy. Yeah. And now they're here. You can be here too. And so they begin to dream differently. You know what I mean? And so things that maybe were not as, I don't know, instead of hanging on, you know, around the block and chilling and doing something that everybody else in the neighborhood were doing, they began to realize, well, yeah, I have that option, but I also can do some other things.
That's good.
You know
That's good.
And, you know, so that kind of a thing. So
no, I love that. When one of my first jobs, actually it was my first job in undergrad, was working for Gear Up, which is just like Upward Bound, but for Gear Up, it's just working at middle school. Yeah. So I worked in Escondido. So I worked with, you know, my Mexican population.
Escondido.
Yeah. And so yeah, so as a tutor, you know, we would help them with their homework, you know, like some parent workshops. We would educate them on, you know, applying for scholarships in middle school. You know, I got my first scholarship for college in eighth grade, either 7th or 8th grade. But yeah, so, you know, just going back and just, like you said, educating them. You know, we would take them to college campus tours, right? Like, yeah, it's middle school, but like you said, it starts young. And then after that, I worked for Upward Bound. So, you know, almost the same thing, but just with the high school kids, and again, in the Hispanic population. Yeah. And it's about exposure, because you don't know how many people, I mean, even some family members that I know that live in San Diego and barely take their kids to the beach. You know what I mean? Like, it's free. It's only 20 minutes away from your house, or taking advantage of the Tuesday free museums at Balboa Park. You know what I mean?
Don't even know about it.
Yeah. I don't even know about it. You know what I mean? So again, it's that exposure. Like, what's in front of you on your block does not have to be your reality. You know, there's so much more to San Diego. There's so much free things, you know? But yeah, I mean, it's all about exposure. I totally agree with you.
And like you said, letting people know that it's accessible. So like the
yes,
museums and the free Tuesdays, I did the same thing. And I like theater. So La Jolla Playhouse, they have
right.
They have a pay what you can, and they also have programs for young people. And if tickets are free, but people don't know about it. And so I started educating the kids as well as their parents. I'm like, this is accessible to you. Don't think that it's too expensive or what have you, because all these folks you see up in here, you know, regardless of their wealth, I've been in line when they paid a penny for 2 tickets.
Wow.
Let's just keep it real. And so, but it's like this, you know, San Diego's one of the, you know, biggest secrets and stuff like that. So kind of letting the information, you know, get out there so people will know, and showing them how to access the information. And things like that. Yeah. Absolutely.
I really love this episode. Like, it's just so important just to talk about representation. And, you know, just going back to inauguration, just to see, you know, the formal presidents and first ladies to be there and to say, like, and to me it was like, I got you. You know what I mean? Like, we have each other. We're going to do this together. We're going to rebuild together. And it's Hispanics, it's Blacks, it's whites, it's Asians, you know what I mean? Coming together and saying, you know what, we got this, and we're going to take our country back.
Yeah. And back on my femme movement, you know, to add to that, I don't know about you guys, but every time I saw a woman just get up there, like, the lady who was in the military, and I'm so sorry, I don't remember her name, but she was the first something in the military. And I was like, yes, like, she's a sister. And I was like, yes, like, that's the stuff I'm talking about. Like, I mean, we still shouldn't be having first in 2021, but you know, it is what it is. But just to see that, like, that representation of just like women just know they're not just, you know, singers. No, they're not just, you know, they're not just Congress people. They're not just people who are in government, but they're people that are also in the military is one of the most, I'm not going to say that because I don't want to get in trouble. Oppressive for people of color. So just to see her in that position and her being the first, I got to find out what she was now because I can't disrespect her like that. But yeah, that was just beautiful.
Yeah. Now, what I really liked is when J-Lo started singing in Spanish. I said, "Oh, okay, go ahead."
I said, "Okay, Boricua, okay, Boricua."
Oh, right? Because you already know we had some folks that were turning in the grave. Like, what? This is going on during the inauguration? Yes, sir.
As I was watching, I just kept thinking about the inclusivity, inclusiveness.
Yeah.
You understand? Because that's really, you know, what this country is supposed to be about, inclusive. And Biden has said, like, he's not trying to be the president for a few. He wants to be a president for everyone. You know, and, you know, open up the doors. If you have the education and what have you, why not be given an opportunity to serve in these different offices, period. Period. You know, it's not just about making the rich richer and keeping you know, the classism, keeping the poor. You know, like, give everybody an opportunity.
So I found her because I had to look. Her name was Andrea Hall, and she's the first Black woman to serve as fire captain for the South Fulton County Fire Rescue.
Wow.
So she was a lady that was doing the sign language.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great. I remember there was actually I had 2 opportunities to go to the Capitol when I was at Howard University. It was a social work leadership conference that I got to be involved in, and both of the times they really pushed more social workers being congressmen and congresswomen and working in the Capitol, because they were like, there's such a disconnect, right? Like, of the ones that are actually writing the bills and the ones that are actually in the front lines on the streets. And it's like, okay, you know, if you have no type of personal experience or professional experience as a social worker or being a minority, how do you really even know what a program is supposed to be made of to make it stick. Like, how are you going to write a bill and pass a law for something that, like, oh, these minority groups, they need this for education, or they need this for housing, when you're not even trying. And of course, it's not.
Don't talk about Dr. Ben Carson. Don't do him like that.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about him.
You had to think about.
But he just said, "Oh, you Black, so you can just go and help your people." That's basically what that was. But no, and again, I'm not gonna say it's every congresswoman, right, or every congressman, of course. But they were just pushing, like, if you're not trying to be at the ground front, right, and seeing what's really going on, and seeing what these communities really need.
Yeah.
How are you gonna write these bills? How are you gonna create these programs? And then you're wondering why these programs are falling,
right? Because
there's no foundation. Like, what are you getting all of this information from? Wikipedia, or just through an article that you read? Right. No,
you watching through TV shows.
Right.
And what you think the community is like.
So yeah, they were really pushing, because again, with social work, you could do so much in our field, and they were like, we need more of you all in the policy level of social work.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is like a person has an opportunity. I call them worker bees, like working from the inside, creating from the
I like that.
And then moving up, you know what I mean? And so I know, as when I was a social worker here in San Diego, that's one thing that I really respected about the positions, is that people come in and you on the ground. Like, it's hard.
Yeah.
And then you have, they hire, they promote from within. And so, moving up as supervisor, or you might go the policy route, but those are not people who are recruited outside of social work, who just kind of know about policies.
Right.
These are people who literally have done the work, and I have much respect for that. Absolutely changing from the inside. And I know when I became a social worker, some people would say, why do you want to do social work? And like, people hate them, you know what I mean? Or they have a bad stereotype. And I'm like, yeah, that is a stereotype. It
is.
What they do, social workers specifically for child welfare services. But my mind is, I know the disproportionate, numbers of workers of color in comparison to the clients. A large number of those are people of color. And I'm like, we can talk all day, but until I do the work and actually make myself seen and known, and have people see how I work, and work with clients, and they'll see that someone who looks like them is not out to
break the stigma,
to hurt them, from the inside. And so I had to do that for years. And it was hard work, but I think just very valuable work.
It is. And I think, back in the day, and we know that there's still individuals that think this way, like, okay, social work is equal CPS. It's like, no, you can do so much. You could do therapy. You can, again, work in the school system. You can work in the jails. You can work with veterans, like the elderly. Like, and that's why I got my master's degree in social work, because if I'm done doing therapy, I can work in the schools, or I can work for the veterans office, or whatever I want, what avenue I want to go to. But yeah, it's, again, like we talked about before, is breaking that stigma, right? Like, we do way more than just, quote unquote, pulling kids out their home,
Exactly.
Right. So we have a question. Do any of us have a desire to work for the federal government create valuable programs for all?
It's a great question.
I'll answer first. I have a couple of programs in my head that are spinning. As far as putting them in working with the government on them, I have a love-hate relationship with our government. So that would have to definitely be the Lord, thus saith the Lord kind of movement. No, like for real.
Or that could push you or drive.
I've worked with the military before. And it's so political. I can see that. It's so restricting sometimes, and I'm a little too free for that. But that doesn't mean that I can't create programs and and that I'm not going to create programs. They just might not be on the government level, or somebody else might take it and move it to the government level. I don't know, but you know, that's my answer.
I'd never thought about it, you know, directly. I know when I think about government programs, I think about promoting to a level where, you know, you create policy and implement policy and change. And so my previous position, so a couple people had brought it to my attention that I should look into policy and procedures. And I'm like, okay, never thought about it, research it. I'm like, I think I might be interested and pretty good at it. And as I worked with new programs that really were implementing lots of new policies and got to see how it was going, it was just all over the place. It was no rhyme or reason. It was like, these 10 changes need to be implemented within 3 months. Go. And not giving the people seriously who are over the program, not telling them who to contact, how to contact, how to implement, nothing. And there was so much pushback. It looked extremely stressful. So I will, again, like WALANDA, I won't say I wouldn't do it, but yeah, it's just not something that was on the forefront of my thinking. What about you, MERENCIA?
I've always wanted to do more of like the therapy, working with children, working with families,
direct services.
And kind of like what WALANDA was saying, like I've been thinking more than ever how I can like give back, as well as like for that change. It's more of like doing webinars, doing creating work booklets, creating a space where moms and parents can come to discuss like what are the concerns, you know, what's going on in their life. So my change is more of like I said, the direct as well as like community. And I never really thought of, no, I wouldn't say really thought of, but I never really desired to do public policy. But like you two ladies said, who knows, you know, maybe 5-10 years it may happen, but as of right now is more direct. But I will say though, I know many foremost students from Howard University that did more the macro public policy. So even though I aren't on that level, I definitely know you know, friends and again students that I met at Howard that definitely went the public policy route. So shout out to them.
You get something doing like, let me slide this to you.
There you go. Yeah, exactly.
Alum.
Right, that part.
But one thing I do know is just like the higher you go up, yes, you do less or no direct service, but you have more control and you have more the leadership, you know what I mean? You have more control or power to make things happen, to implement things. And so I guess, you know, the challenge would be to find that balance or find that position where you can still stay connected, which that's what we love to do, but also bring that connectivity with some type of power to promote and put things into place. Whatever. And at the end of the day, it probably looks like doing your own thing. You know what I mean? Like collaborating with other like-minded teachers and professionals and doing it yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
This has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Go around the world.
I know. We're all a little energetic. We're all fired.
Yeah, we really are, right?
Yeah, right? Let's make it happen. Like, go.
Exactly. Yeah. Take off.
So one of the things we want to talk about, I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but you know, connection with groups and you know, Facebook, you'll find a group for everything. Because I know it's COVID right now, so we're not, you know, necessarily meeting together, but whatever profession that you are in, I would bet that there's a group on Facebook for it. So, I mean, that's a place to start. That's, you know, a bigger place to start. But also, you know, again, if you know someone that's in the field, or you know someone that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, your great uncle, cousin, little TT, Coco's, and them nephew, you know, reach out. Or even if you know someone that's looking for someone and you know that other someone, just making those connections with other people so you can learn more and and understand more.
Informational interviews. That was
What'd you
something.
say?
Informational interviews. That's something that I did a lot of. I'd find if there was a profession or something I was interested in, contact the person and introduce myself and say, is it possible that I can have an informational interview? So the only thing I want from you is just the interview.
To pick your brain.
That's it. And most people are open to that. You know, that was my experience.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad that you said that, Walanda, because I know the three of us are on so many different types of, you know, mental health, social work, you know, LMFT on Facebook, and like it's flooded my Facebook feed of information. And one thing that my fiance, you know, reminds me of is like when you really hone into your craft, like we have. And instead of, you know, searching on Instagram or Facebook, you know, just miscellaneous random things because you're bored, like really pull from those pages, you know, like those pages, join groups, because the more that you educate yourself, the more that you have a community, not only are you educating yourself on what you can do, but, you know, you're reaching out to different people, you're learning from people, you get to know other folks. And that's when, again, you share that information, you know, and you don't just keep it to yourself. So again, you know, just really branch out and pull from social media, because you could do so much with social media in a good span of resources.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Well, it's been real, ladies.
Yes.
It's been real.
Thank you, everybody.
Another good one.
And those who will see the recording, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Who girl?